Hey, what's going on? Welcome back to the CryptoLabs YouTube channel. My name is Colin, and today I wanted to walk through a strategy that I have been testing for the last week or so. And I shared this in an accelerator call, and people have liked it. And so maybe it is something that you can integrate into your current system that will help you maximize cash flow returns with capital that you want to deploy inside of a liquidity pool. So first, before we dive into the content, make sure you like and subscribe and turn on that bell so you get notified every time we post a new video. And if you're laughing at my outfit, so is my girlfriend. She goes, "You're gonna record a YouTube video in that hat and your and that blue shirt." And I said, "Heck yeah, I am. I'm gonna be myself today." So, anyways, let's dive into the content. So, I'm in a wrapped ETH and spec, and I like both of these assets, but I'm using this as more of a cash flow play. Well, what does that mean? That means that I really like the returns that this position is producing on Aerodrome, and I'm currently using VFAT to help me manage those positions. But I had this chunk of capital. For me, it was $2,000 I wanted to put into this pool. In the past, I would just take that $2,000 worth of capital and I would put it, I'd find support and resistance and I would deposit that capital right into that position, usually in a wide range. And so I actually have two ranges set here, one that's about 35% wide and the second one that's about 17% wide. I think actually on mine it's about 16, so it might be off just a hair, but you get the point. I think it's about 16, but some maybe it's something like that, right? Um, but normally I would just take the full amount of capital and I would just put it into that one position, so that one liquidity pool, and I would just let that ride. And if it goes out of range, then I would make the decision: do I want to rebalance or do I want to wait? Do I want to snuggle, et cetera, et cetera. But I'm testing a new strategy to help me maximize my yield and returns. And that is splitting up that capital into two different positions within that same liquidity pool. And so I actually have a wider position here that's about 35% wide, and then a tighter range that I think on mine is actually 16% wide. And I'm not suggesting to do this, but it's something that I'm testing of, can I get more um, returns by having two separate positions, one that's wider that captures the full spread and one that's tighter. And this is something that we've been bouncing back and forth inside of the UIG. And I just wanted to share it here on YouTube as well, because maybe potentially there's an opportunity for you to separate these two positions to, like I said, maximize the returns here. Now, you might be thinking, well, Colin, wouldn't you just be maximizing the returns if you just went all the way in on this smaller position? And you'd be right, right? You'd be right. If I put all $2,000 inside of the tighter position here, then yes, I'd be generating more returns in terms of the cash flow that this produces, right? Because the tighter the range, the more concentrated our liquidity is going to be, and thus the more returns we're going to make. And on the, conversely, on a wider range, that capital is spread out on a long, or, on a wider range, and so it's less concentrated, which means that we'll earn less rewards. So why am I doing two? Why do I have a wide range and then a tighter range? Well, because I want the wider range that actually holds 75% of that capital. So it holds about $1,500 in my example here, because I want to make sure that I am earning, I'm earning rewards for the most amount of time. And so that wider range for me is set so that if, spec and ETH continue to be volatile, as we've seen here in the last couple of weeks, that I remain in range for the most amount of time. And then the $500, the 25% of my capital, did I say five? Yeah, $500 of my capital is a tighter range, and it's only 16% wide. And so as of right now, as I'm recording this, the wider range is producing about 250% APR, and the tighter range is almost double that, to about 400 to 450% APR. So again, Colin, why wouldn't you just put all of it in this really, in this tighter 16% wide range? Because you'd be earning the most fees and rewards. You'd be 100% correct with that assessment. But again, because it's been so volatile, um, I don't want to put myself in that sort of a situation, because if spec continues to run and it shoots this thing to the downside, or if wrapped ETH catches up and spec goes down in value and it shoots way back up to the upside, I don't want to get stuck by being out of range and then forced to rebalance. And so that's why I have the majority of my liquidity in a much wider range at 35%, and then a tighter range at 16%. So again, this is just something I'm testing. I don't do all of my positions like this. In fact, this is the only pool that I'm doing this in, but I'm testing it to see, you know, am I squeezing more juice out of the $2,000 in capital when I split my position into a wider range that again has 75% and then a tighter range that has about 25% of my capital. So, so far it's been working really well. Again, the wide range for me is doing about 200 to 250%, shorter range 400 to 450% APR. And that's just because there's a lot of great emissions coming from that spec wrapped ETH pool at the moment. So, hopefully this brings you some value today. Again, it was actually funny. I'll tell you this story real quick. Um, in the UIG, I share this stuff too, right? I share, hey, this is kind of what I'm working on. These are, some things that I'm testing out. And somebody in the community was just like, hey, Colin, we really appreciate you sharing like new things that you're testing. And it was interesting because then that sort of led to a conversation of, um, what do we share inside the UIG? And usually it takes a long time for us to come up with an idea, create a thesis behind it, then, implement the strategy, actually deploy capital into that strategy, test it, analyze that test, and then produce the results. But not only just produce the results, we have to replicate that for the future. So then we have to systemize how we did it and then present it in a way that people can understand and implement themselves so that it can benefit them specifically for the goal that they're looking for, right? And so when I explain that, they're like, "Whoa, it makes sense. There's a lot that goes, through, a lot goes into this behind the scenes." And they'd be right. And so just know that as we're doing this, this is not potentially the best thing that you can do. This is just something that I am testing and currently it is working well for me. So potentially it is something you want to take and implement yourself. So hopefully it's probably some value today. If you have any questions or any thoughts at all, drop them down here in the comments. And then if you're inside the UIG, obviously ask questions, tag me in the question, and I would love to help you out best I can. So that being said, see you in the next one.